So hello and welcome once again to another Project Cars 2 video, where in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the community event in the Bac Mono at Bathurst once again, but we're not using the default version this time. As per usual, I'll look over the lap, I'll look over the settings that have changed, we'll take a nice slow drive around the circuit, and yes, for all those other people out there, I am human, I do crash. So let's get into the video and take a little look at this community event and the car that we're going to be driving. So here we have it, the Bac Mono. Now originally back in 2011, I think the car was fitted with a 2.3 litre engine producing around 285 brake horsepower. In 2015 the engine was replaced with a 2.5 litre unit which produced around 305 brake horsepower, pushing this car to 0 to 60 in about just under 3 seconds. Now amazingly, this car has been featured before in its standard version. It was just a default setup in the same sort of community event, and I really did fall in love with this car, and it's back again, but we can adjust some of these settings. So I've got a far better balance in the setup, the car's braking better in a straight line, and I've been able to adjust some of the gearing ratios. Now if we look back at that previous community event, you'll see that I managed a 206.4. Now I thought surely with being able to set up the car, I should be able to get into the 205s, and it certainly didn't disappoint. I had a number of runs where I was really into the 205s and just didn't manage to nail the final section, but eventually managed to get there. So let's have a look at the lap and see how it went on. So with the lap completed, let's take a look over the setup. So moving to tyres, obviously we're going to be using the stickiest of the tyres, the semi-slick tyre, and a slight adjustment on the temperatures, the pressures. Obviously the rear is going to be slightly softer than the front. Moving on to the brake pressure, obviously this is going to be something that's really personal to yourself, but adjusting the brake pressure to get the car to brake more in a straight line and not too much oversteer, just adjusted to 57% at the front. Camber didn't touch the front cambers or the caster angles. The ride height is as low as it goes on the front end, and we're slightly harder on the front spring rates than we are at the rear. Now the rear camber angle, I did adjust this quite a few times, going down lower than probably 0.8 degrees. Obviously you get better straight line speed, but you'll at the cost of cornering ability. And obviously I tried going up to around 1.8 to better the cornering ability, but at the detriment of straight line speed. Obviously going for something in between, I went for 1.2. Ride height at the rear, slightly, it's just 4mm higher than totally bottomed out, so whether it makes a difference I don't know. And as again I mentioned, it's slightly softer at the rear. I'm using the McLaren GT3 wheel, as you all know, so my steering ratio is fairly small as I want to go from lock to lock without removing my hands from the wheel. And the toe angle at the front and the anti-roll bar was set as standard, but I did adjust the toe angle at the rear down from 0.6 down to 0.2, just to try and reduce some of the effects of the scrubbing that you get at high speed, just to try and get more top end out of the car. It didn't seem to squirm too much, but if the car does squirm under acceleration, it is a good idea to increase that rear toe angle. Moving on to the dampers, this is totally standard. I haven't touched anything in the damper menu. In the radiator section, obviously I've closed the radiator out because we're just going to do one flying lap. And as you can see from the engine braking, I did try this at 0, but there's just too much locking at the rear when you're coming down through the gears, and I'll show you just why. So coming into the final section of the circuit, and one that's really is important to get the braking right, and just having too much locking at the rear just caused this accident to happen and just a massive spin out. So I just went back to 1 in the braking section. So moving back to the setup, I've reduced the final drive down to as low as it goes, and the gear ratios work much better in between the corners so that you're not having to change gear midway through a corner, and you can just really push the gears. Moving to the power ramp and the preload etc. in the differential, I've just increased this up to 70 at the rear for the power ramp. And just as a pointer really, if you are struggling to get the car to accelerate round corners with it, and it's just oversteering too much, I'd certainly suggest trying to get work from 90 all the way back, so something that you can handle on the corner exit. And that's the setup, guys. And as always, for all those YouTubers out there, if you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please take a minute just to do so, and hit the bell icon so you know when any future videos are coming out. So let's get into driving around this circuit and point out a few key areas. So there's loads to point out on this lap, as per usual, and I'm probably not going to do it justice during this video because it's quite short. But coming up here, just past the 100-yard board, you can see the lamppost on the right-hand side, just on the corner of our screen. And this is going to be the point where we're going to start braking. A quick shift down into third gear, and then just really get near the apex into second, and getting on the power as soon as you can, letting the car run wide out onto the curbs. Take as much curb as you can, but don't take too much or you will pick up a track limits penalty. Now fast forward further along this circuit, and we're going to be looking for a braking point just on our left hand side, where we're going to take a drop down 2 gears for this corner, just here, 1 drop down and then down again, and then back on the power as fast as we can in third gear. Let the car drift wide and just try not to scrub too much speed as it does try to oversteer a little bit. Let the car run out wide onto the right hand side, and then braking just as we come past the wall there, and then down into second gear. Again, we're trying to get as little wheel spin as possible here to get the best amount of traction up through this section. We're just going to take a little lift as we approach into here, just to get the car to settle down before we're back on the power. And it's almost like the turbo band kicking in through that section. It's quite awkward to nail. Again, just letting the car run wide here, a little bit of opposite lock needed possibly in that section just to get through the corner, and then trying to get through here as flat out as possible. We're going to try and get the car nice and straight, drop down into third gear, carry third gear over the rise, and then dropping down into second gear, hugging the left hand curb, and then just tinkering around this section here before we flatten the power as soon as we can and coming out of that corner. Now we're going to stay in third gear as we approach this corner. It would have been nice to have had a little bit more power, but then we're just going to drop down into second gear, try and keep the car nice and straight, but it does tend to want to slide, so just allow it to drift almost before you flatten the power, just accelerating up through the gears down this long back straight. Now the section coming up is a section that I always tend to struggle with because I can always see in my rear view mirror whether I'm doing better than the previous lap. So all the pressure's on through this last section. Now we're just looking at the right hand side for the board, and we're braking really hard down into second gear, and then again it's like that power band, it just wants to squirm around in this section, up into second, up into third, and then again for the hard last corner, braking hard just after the cones, down into second gear, take a little bit of this inside curve here, let the car drift out wide and across the line for the finish. Now if you've managed to do that in a 205, I'd certainly applaud you. It's a very tough circuit to nail. Obviously we've got the walls that are running very close by, but it's certainly one you can really enjoy, and I really do love this car. I love this circuit, and the combination is a joy to drive. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. As always, please do hit that subscribe button, and until next time, enjoy the replay and ciao for now. So as the video comes to a close, if there's anything that you'd like to add in the comments section regarding track and car combinations, or if there's anything else about the game you'd like me to cover, please do add a comment. I'd love to get back to you with another video or anything you'd like to see on the channel. So thanks for watching as always, and ciao for now.